Hello. So, for the occasion of International Nurses Day, we have with us Miguel Marquez Graca, who is a nurse in Portugal. He has worked in private and public healthcare services for about 10 years. He has specialized in emergency services, but right now he has been working in the ICU to help battle the crisis caused by the corona pandemic. Hello.
Hello.
So, this is a difficult time for everybody, and healthcare systems have been burdened globally. If you could give us an insight on what it is like working in the ICU during this time as a nurse.
So let's say that at the beginning it was a lot of confusion for everybody in the organizations itself. Nobody really knew how to proceed with things like this. And I believe that right now things are getting better every day. We are getting better and better every day managing and these challenges. At the beginning, there was a mess in where these patients go, where does it stay, what kind of material do we use, what kind of personal equipment do we need. And then there is like black and white areas as always, but there is the gray areas of the healthcare that is that are the most difficult because we have a lot of rules that we need to follow. However, there is always like some questions that nobody really knows the answer, and they are not written anywhere. And even the more experienced nurses, doctors, directors, even the ones that have been on this field for a long time, they were not really experienced on anything like this. We have several situations in the past that gave us like a hint regarding this, like when we had H1N1 like some years ago with the MERS, with the SARS, but this time it affects us here harder than before.
So, you are saying that you learned a lot of lessons during this. What are the kind of flaws which came out, which surfaced because of this crisis in the healthcare system of Portugal? And what are some of these lessons that you're talking about?
Well, first of all, we realized that hospitals are like I work for the governmental hospital, but like hospitals are like closed institutions, even between themselves. And suddenly we need to start working in the network. So like hospitals always have been working in the network, but this time we really need to work in a network of hospitals. But this pandemic brought us like questions that were like kind of transversal to all the departments, and suddenly all the departments needed to work together. And suddenly there was a question of who is the person responsible for this? And suddenly it was like, oh, I think it's you. No, it's me. No, I think it's both of us. And suddenly we have to work all of us together. So this is one of the challenges, and I think that we are learning every day how to work better with each other. One of the biggest lessons we are learning is how to think ahead of time. First of all, because you need to plan things before they happen. Um, we have this saying every day that is in the pandemic there are the urgencies. So in order to protect everybody, we need to do things calmly and with a lot of we have to put our head in the field all the time. And secondly is to communicate with each other. So the communication is like it's so important in situations like this. So now communication is getting better every day as well. Well, I believe that to be a nurse you need to be very flexible every day. It's part of our work. It's not something that we are not used to. So to be a nurse you have to be flexible. You have to be open-minded. You have to see things through. So, and you have to, because things change. Patients, they change. The patients change, diseases change. A patient that is doing great in the morning can be doing bad in the evening. So things change all the time. So we are used to deal with unpredictability. Nurses need to be more flexible now, not only with the patient itself and the nature of our work, but also with each other. So I have to be more flexible now with my colleagues from the other departments, with the doctors, with the assistants. So like everybody now needs to be more flexible, and everybody needs to listen more to each other. And this is something really great. So now like we feel that we are more and more connected. to each other because of this situation and because of this flexibility that we were kind of imposed to us, but also it's necessary and crucial for our work.
Necessary and crucial. Okay. Keeping the COVID crisis aside, what would be your assessment of how nurses are treated in the healthcare systems in Portugal?
Well, in Portugal, it's a very hard question. Fortunately, I've worked in different environments, and then my opinion has been changing through the time, and it's normal. But let me say that I believe that in Portugal we kind of have a lot of respect from our population. People recognize us as very valued professionals, very competent and professional. And in general, I would believe that the population likes us and they see how important we are and how things would not work without them. Basically, that's and the reality is that government wise it's complicated because throughout the years we have been losing kind of some rights and some kind of some let's say money rights, and salary wise it has been complicated. Salary wise and benefits wise we are losing some things, and but so this is kind of a paradox here because on the one side people are recognizing us more and more and people really respect us, and this, let's call it, this pandemic brought even more respect and more lights upon our work. But on the other side, on the government side, we are losing benefits. So we are kind of in the middle of, so really, are we so important for them? Do they really recognize our work every day, and do they really recognize how important we are and vital we are for the healthcare system? So we are kind of we don't, sometimes we don't understand that's really the idea behind the nurses, and some political decisions regarding nurses. I'm a big let's call it. I defend the public system like with all my heart because I believe in it. My first job was in the public system, and since then I created like this love for this healthcare system, and I will always defend it. And I still believe that the best option is to give the power to the free healthcare system to make the best job ever. And well, people always have options, but I believe in the free healthcare system, and I hope that things will keep getting better for the for the national healthcare system and not for the private sector.
Coming to in the public sector only, what is the kind of nurse to patient ratio that is currently present? Has it been declining over the years or increasing?
The other departments, they also have like different ratios. It changes from hospital to hospital. Some hospitals have like 1 to 5, and then they have 1 to 10, then they have 1 to 15. It really depends. But I would say like in Portugal, there is a lot of things. These things are in the law, and the hospitals have to follow them. But I would say that here in Portugal, we are working always on the minimum. So if the loss is 1 to 2, we are working 1 to 2. If the loss is 1 to 10, we are working on 1 to 10. So there is not really like a promotion of let's give another nurse to improve the quality of the healthcare. It's more like, okay, you only need one, you only get one. And these like it's complicated because this is not like this is not like a factory. It's 10 patients for one nurse is a lot, and then if you put 10 complicated patients to one nurse, it's even worse. So uh, I don't believe that in the last years we have been really working towards more quality, but more on the economic side of how can we provide the same results with less people. So basically, it's, one of the problems we face here in Portugal in the last years, and we are not
So,
seeing these improving.
so essentially trying to stick to the law, but the bare minimum, just enough to
Exactly.
be economical, but also maintaining law without actually increasing the quality of healthcare. Okay. Uh, we'll come to our final question. Globally, on an average, nursing is seen as a female profession.
Mhm.
As a male nurse in your country, have you faced gender biased discrimination?
I'm gonna say no, because personally I've never felt anything like that. Actually, like since nurse school, um, I've never really felt anything like that. I feel that the male nurses are more, let's say, they are more welcome than ever, because we create a balance in this profession as well. So we kind of we come to bring a balance, different opinions, different ways of communication, different ways of attitudes. I'm not saying they are better or worse, but more and more we get this perception also from our human resources, from our chief nurses. They get to tend to like to have male nurses in the teams. Of course, the majority are still women. We are still not that many, but we are a lot. Based like compared to a few years ago, and now more and more we are welcomed on the teams, and we are welcome on departments, and it has been a very interesting experience, because in the majority of the professions of the world's men are always the majority, and we live in the world of it's the other way around. Here in Europe, we are having a lot of issues with quorums, with quotes, with we for I don't know, for the parliament we need to have 50-50, you know. And in my profession, it's the other way around. We have already more women than men. I think more men are interested in this profession, and I would say that it's a very interesting perspective to work on a women's world. Let's call it like that. And I believe that we need men on this profession as well. And I would welcome them, and if they want to come to work in Portugal, they are more than welcome. But I believe that they will face an interesting perspective suddenly. Like suddenly you have 3 or 4 colleagues that are pregnant. You know what I mean? And like this is not normal on any other place. I would say that don't be afraid. Maybe some people, of course, there will always be exceptions, can question some things, but in general, nowadays, for the future, you are more than welcome and you are needed. I would say like this. And nursing is a profession of the future. We will always be needed, and I think this SARS-CoV, this new pandemic, will also brought that to the daylights that we are more needed than ever. And so, come, we need you.
Thank you for ending on such an encouraging and positive note, and thank you for giving us your insight. Thank you so
It's
much.
all right. Thank you very much for everything.